keynote with our panelists and this last panel discussion on the rise of the sharing economy and above all with a particular focus on what are the challenges that sharing economy businesses pose to local authorities here in Russia, but also anywhere else. So let me introduce the panelists that all have first-hand experience on developing sharing economy businesses here in Russia. On my left, your right, we have Artem Ignatiev, who is the head of Lokolo, a platform that basically provides rentals of micro rentals for any sort of goods you can imagine, from DJ sets to building equipment and so on, so forth. Please, a round of applause also for Artem. On his left, your right, we have Alexander Kostikov, who is the communication director of Uber, that I guess you all know, one of the most famous, if not the most famous, transport network company active all over the globe and in 11 cities here in Russia. And finally, we have Roman Kumar Vyas, who is the business director of Clean.ru, who is a platform providing cleaning services here in Moscow, Petersburg, but also growing all over the country soon.
Yeah. Hello.
All right, so let me just give a brief introduction to the topic before we can get the discussion started. I think that when we speak about the sharing economy in an urban environment, we mostly refer to two major sort of businesses. Micro-rental businesses like city bikes or car-sharing initiatives, where basically either municipalities or private companies provide clients with their stocks of bicycles, cars, and any member of the program can actually access a micro rental. They can rent this object for a short period of time. And then we have peer-to-peer platforms that basically create real-time marketplaces for goods and services, which on paper they are provided by single individuals that just want to make a better use of their spare time, spare goods, spare rooms, and you all know this sort of these companies. Uber is one of those, but also Airbnb and you name it. So it's a very fascinating topic, the way these companies engage with local authorities, because obviously these businesses are proving to be one of the most disruptive force of our years in the business arena. And something that really fascinates me is that most of the times, or many times, these businesses have not really invented anything new. I give you an example. In my original city, Milan in Italy, the municipality first tested a bike sharing program in the 80s. And it was a huge failure because there was no infrastructure in place, no smartphones, and it was very poorly managed to the point that people didn't even have to leave a document to rent out the bikes. And so the overall outcome was awful to the point that, I'm afraid to say in very Italian fashion, on the very first day, most of the bicycles went missing. People were just stealing the bikes because they just didn't have to leave the document. There was no way to trace them. So the times were not, the technology was not there, the management capabilities were not there, and also probably the mentality of the people was not there in a way that back then owning a car or a bicycle was probably as important as using the same object. But now things are very different. We've got the technology, we've got the management capabilities, and the mentality of the people is really different, the way people approach these services. And also home sharing businesses, Airbnb, everybody, anywhere in the world, people have been renting out spare rooms or spare flats for years. But just now with the new technologies, the millennials generation, and a whole number of factors, this old habit has become a multi-billion global business. So times is now, in a way. But as these companies succeed, their success comes along with many challenges for local authorities and regulators. And the response we are seeing from these regulators is very diverse. There are communities that are opening up to sharing economy businesses and making them like characteristics of their governance. But there are also communities, authorities that are being more cautious and are trying to regulate and to impose a tighter control on these businesses. But yeah, let's get started with the discussion. I think that when it comes actually to this sort of contentious, controversial experiences, Uber always comes on top of the list. And Uber Russia is no exception to that, in a way that there has been also a long negotiation for Uber Russia to go with authorities here in Moscow. So I want to ask you, Alexander, do you want to share with us what has been the approach of the Moscow government as Uber grew across the city, and what is the nature of the agreement that you eventually struck with the Moscow government?
А есть кто-то у нас здесь из правительства Москвы, кстати? Никого нет?
By the way, is there anyone here from the Department of Transport of Moscow or from the local authorities of Moscow? Well, then I think I will have to speak for everyone. I believe that too much attention was attracted to this agreement from the media and the press. This is just a working document which regulates our cooperation. And the only reason why this took some time is that it's a global company which is represented in more than 70 countries at the moment, which is why this concerns some cooperation with the local authorities, and we need to agree on this on a regional level. So unlike our colleagues, we can't do this just within 1 or 2 weeks. We have to translate everything, we have to agree with everyone. But in a nutshell, the essence of this agreement is that we undertake to connect to our platform only those vehicles that have an official license to transport passengers. That's not actually a license or licensed taxi drivers. In the law, there is the notion of permission to transport passengers and cargoes by taxi. So it's called, legally it's called not a license but a permission. It's written in the Russian federal law. But now that this law was written long before the establishment of mobile telephones and the internet.
If I speak too long, just wave me. Законодательство создавало.
So this law was developed long before the appearance of mobile internet and mobile platforms. So in this law, there are no notions like mobile integrators, dispatchers, and so on. So there is some gap between expectations and reality, and it's not clear who is responsible for what. So we are a little bit reactive here, but also a little bit proactive. So we decided to strike a longer-term cooperation with the Transport Department of Moscow, of the government of Moscow. We commit ourselves to strict compliance with the law, and that's something that we demand from our partners. This agreement was signed between us in early March. There was a certain transition period, and now we have implemented everything that we thought about. That is the transportation of passengers and freight by taxi, all our partners have the necessary permissions, otherwise they can't work with our system. So this issue has been resolved. And as you know, right now there's going to be a new law on taxes, which will tell us what a platform, an internet platform, should be responsible for. But unfortunately, the parliament didn't have the time to consider this law fully, so it will be reconsidered after elections. But we are going ahead of the time, and we are undertaking some commitments proactively so that there is a more legal framework of operations in Russia. Thank you.
Roman, so your company provides cleaning services in Moscow and Petersburg, 600 cleanings per day performed by 600 cleaners. One of the most controversial issues when it comes to experiences like yours or Uber is guaranteeing the safety and the quality of the services that you provide through safety checkings, background checkings, and so on and so forth. So do you want to tell us what has been your experience in how are you guaranteeing that the services provided by your cleaners are top quality services?
Окей, да, спасибо большое за вопрос.
Thank you very much for your question. Actually, when we created our business, we had two choices. Either to become an aggregator, an IT platform to connect the final user, the end user, with the provider of services, or do a vertical business with our own operations that would be responsible for the quality of the services provided. And we went for the second option. So it was our intention to invest money in the operations and training cleaners, in the CRM system, which would get some feedback from the users and bring together the buyers and the customers, the cleaners and the customers. So we decided to build a business with a big operation part. And this is how we hedge a lot of risks involving the cleaning of a house. We also have an insurance fund. And if something happens during cleaning, we return the money to the client back and we compensate for the damages. Fortunately, there are very few cases like this. But given our volume of business, sometimes there are such cases. And we are always responsible for the quality of services provided by our cleaners. We do this intentionally. We are not just a platform to connect the performer and the user. We are a platform responsible for the quality of services. And we believe that services and its quality is something that allows us to scale up, to grow. And we should always remember about it.
Artem, I guess the same question for you. Obviously, you are renting out. Your platform brings together demand for and offer for physical goods, not services. So how do you make sure these goods are functioning and they are all okay?
Мы строим, у нас P2P платформа, мы
We build P2P platforms. We haven't yet launched our platform. It will be ready in late August, so we are only a startup. But we do our best to motivate our users to share information with us, with the platform. Based on this information, and that's the personal information, the social profile. So based on the information we collect, we try to develop a certain scoring within our company to make sure that a certain user is reliable. And we try to sum up this information, share it with other users whom we connect with those first users so that those users make a decision whether they can rent a certain thing to a certain user. This is what we are trying to do at the initial stage of the project.
Are you also considering some sort of insurance fund, like in the case of Clean?
Да, мы ведем переговоры с...
Yes, we are having negotiations with several insurance companies in Russia. Right now it's a bit complicated. I will repeat that we haven't yet launched the project, so it's more difficult to do the negotiations. And we are also introducing a certain franchise. Up to a certain amount, the products up to a certain amount of money will be insured. And then we have different models that we are going to try with insurance. Maybe it will be a kind of pledge, maybe a barter. There are different options that we are going to test as we begin to operate. As we grow, of course, we will have more insurance.
All right, maybe Alexander, how are you linking up with authorities here in Moscow to make sure, how are authorities trying to link up with Uber to make sure that your service sort of fits an overall urban development strategy or transport development strategy?
Ну, наверное, вопрос...
This is a question that begins from how authorities, you need to address authorities. These are the right guys to ask them. And we need to ask the transportation department guys. And what is the Uber philosophy based on? And why we believe this is very useful for the city. And our panel is on the collective economy, sharing economy. This is what Uber is all about. It is well known that the personal car is an efficient asset because it eats your money, insurance, car insurance. If you don't drive, you still have to pay, and maybe 1 hour and a half max you use it per day, and the rest of time it just remains idle and takes some occupied space. 15% of the total area of big cities, like Moscow, for instance, is consumed by cars. This was one of the biggest issues of Moscow. The parking was an issue. They parked even on the sidelines, on the pavement, and so the Uber proposes very simple solution. The person does not need a car. They need to drive from A to B. He presses the button on smartphone, then a car comes that meets certain requirements and drives him or her to where the person wants to. We calculated across Chicago, New York, and Moscow, and it turns out that Uber is much more cost efficient and less of the head pain. And whatever we do is very much in line with what our authorities stand for. Less use your personal car. Don't use it at all. It's an ideal. Use public transportation and use Uber. In Moscow, we don't have such statistics. We have it for London, Paris, and other cities that Uber, this is the last mile solution. A significant portion of Uber trips is terminates around Moscow. Uber is an addition, is something add-on the public system transportation. Uber comes to help you. A person presses a button once he gets out from his house and goes to metro and comes to the center. In the center, he either walks or calls Uber, and he doesn't need to worry where to park his or her car. That's why our solution is very much efficient.
So have you been approached by transport authorities with regard to this last mile offer in a way that you can offer commuters this last mile option that instead of taking another bus or walking, they can use a Uber car. But I guess that this could be very relevant in the mind of transport planners or those that manage the transport system in Moscow. So, have you been approached by them?
Нет такого, чтобы со стороны
No, we've never got approached. And they're planning city transportation, and we are always at your disposal. We're always ready to help. And Uber is a self-regulating system, and the drivers know where to go, where the demand is waiting for them. So this is self-regulating system. We don't need.
I think another very interesting point that you touched upon is the concept of ownership. Commuters don't need a car; they just need to go from A to B. But at the same time, cars are an incredible example of how the ownership of an object has become over the years a status quo. People want to own big cars, fast cars, because not only because they are obviously they can use them, but obviously also because they want to. There is a social component. They want to show off. They want just to own them. In the case of Locolo, you are actually again shifting this concept from ownership to usability. So what is your feeling about it? Do you think that people in Russia, in this specific case, would be ready to embrace this concept rather than buying a mic, renting out a mic?
Мне кажется, ну, учитывая экономическую ситуацию,
I believe, considering the economic situation, and perhaps our service will be popular in Russia. We have issues that we can see. The culture, consumption culture is different. Experience of using such services. And from the global perspective, if we take a look globally, and till the end of this century, the number of population inhabitants will reach 15 billion. And for these people, we cannot supply the resources that we can provide to the current number of population. It is just a global connection, right? And if we go less globally, if we take a mega city, we have the same issue. As my colleagues from Uber are permanently citing this example, that a personal car, you just utilize it 4% of your time, 4 to 8%, and the most of other things that ordinary person owns in a mega city, it's the same story. And I believe this technology enables to share things, and people, one way or another, they will take a resource and pay on an hourly rate. They will pay for hour rate to accomplish their tasks. This is what future signals to us, and we are working to provide on providing such a platform. Just lease it for a certain period of time and share things, share property.
Something on this?
Я, если позволите, хотел бы сказать,
If you allow me a couple of words on sharing collective economy, how do we deal with it? And I would like to use 2 minutes of your precious attention to tell on the major issue we are dealing with now. This is another important thing for the city. Our target audience for our service, I mean, the programmers, the designers, the mid and above mid-class, average or mid-level management, startuppers, entrepreneurs. On average, each person spends 6 hours per week for cleaning. And per month, it amounts to 24 hours per month, the entire day, Tom. And we have 600 cleanups per day. And we save 3,600 hours And if we recall the gradual theory to become a genius in one of the sectors, a person needs 10,000 hours, and within 3 days we create one genius, Leonardo da Vinci, John Lennon, or you do the name, and we provide time to people. If we give thought to it, 3,600 hours per day. If we extrapolate this to the scale of entire city, under the current volume, we save 8 years of time for creative class in our city. And once we become greater by 10 times, we will save 80 years. And for the smart people, for creators who are generating GDP, creating new businesses, startups, and this is our major role. And crime, it's a crime to waste your time to clean up your apartment. You need to outsource this service. If your time, if your rate is higher than, if we redistribute our time from the lower class to upper class. Speaking about sharing economy, collective economy, back then we had an experience talking to the city administration and accommodation services. We were trying to help people to clean up the entrances, and so it would enable us to reduce costs, and management companies could have provided a better service to their customers with less money to pay, and even to outsource. We were able to earn some money due to cleanup of these entrances, but we didn't find any common ground with this services, with these departments. We even tried to build sandboxes, playgrounds, but the management companies did not listen to us. And these people are strange, and they have other tasks and values, and they don't see any point. So they want to have less job. And sharing economy, that's why we tried many things, and we were trying to go through the wall, but sometimes we didn't. But we are fully for sharing economy. We would love to provide services to entire residential buildings and to clean up entrances.
That people that are using your cleaning services are just people that are shifting away from a previous cleaner and opting for your cleaners for several reasons. Maybe it's cheaper, maybe it's better. But when you talk about saving time, have you ever done a profiling of your clients, and why are you assuming that people that are currently cleaning up their flats are shifting to their service rather than people that were using a previous cleaner and are just opting for your services again because it's cheaper or better or whatever the reason?
Вы знаете, у нас 80...
You know, 85% of our customers, they never used the cleaners, outsourced cleaners, before becoming our customer. We launched our service at very immature market. For many people, it was something very strange and absurd to order cleanup services. They saw the janitors only in Brazil soap operas. It was funny for them, strange.
Decided to change this habit.
Потому что мы, слава богу, смогли донести...
Because we will manage to convey to them, this is a crime to waste your time to do routine errands that does not give you anything. During crisis time, especially, as you know, we are going through the difficult time, it is a crime to use it for a routine because time is your asset.
I would like also to get some inputs from the audience. We are a small crowd, so there will be a chance, I guess, for everybody to have questions or share their thoughts. Maybe the gentleman over there. I don't know if we have a mic. We got a mic. We don't have a mic, but I guess we all can hear that. Yeah.
I cannot hear him, you know. I need a mic. I had headphones. Otherwise, I cannot hear. So it's
Is there anybody that can provide us with a mic? Because yeah, there you go.
Лучше микрофон, потому что...
The translator.
yeah, now he's audible. We signed an agreement, and you rejected, kind of discarded unlicensed drivers. We don't have such a thing as licensed or unlicensed driver. I've heard your comment. I mean, just it's not about words. It's about the whole point. You work only with the drivers who are fully entitled, have a permission to drive passengers. So you reduced the number of drivers, and you discarded the ones who don't have this permission, this license. Is it a question or what, or statement?
What is the question, if I may be?
В чем вопрос?
Question is that according to the agreement they signed with the Moscow government, they work actually only with
Licensed driver, yeah?
only licensed driver.
Vehicles.
Is it true or not? This
Vehicles.
is question number one.
Licensed vehicles or drivers?
There are no licensed drivers there is no such definition.
Oh,
of
so
licensed driver.
technically it's licensed vehicles.
Only vehicle
Okay.
can be licensed.
So the question is it true or not?
Sure, it is true. We signed this agreement.
Окей. Означает ли это, что вы уж
Does this mean that you switch to another competitive environment? Because my understanding was that the Uber business model is baseline on the following. Any owner of a car can take your order if this driver is connected to the system. He or she can take this order and work with you. This is not exactly true. And Uber model is different. In different countries, it depends. But we never had such a case that any driver having any car can become an Uber driver with, no special permission for providing transportation services. If a car has permission, it means this is a means of production. And I'm not just... We can connect either individual entrepreneurs or legal entities. And so are you in the same environment as City Mobile, Route Taxi, Yandex Taxi? Yes, that's right. And how does it translate into the volume of your transportation? Still, the volume is growing. And the growth rate, we do not disclose our growth rate. We are growing.
Stepping here, I guess I just want to sum up the question, then we can just leave the floor to somebody else. So how in this regulated environment, because obviously this is a very good point that obviously has been raised in many other places all over the world, where Uber has been regulated through this sort of licensing processes. So how does this make Uber any different from any other taxi service out there?
Ну, мы не такси-сервис, мы все-таки...
We are not a taxi service, we are an IT service. The most simple distinction, Uber is a global platform. You can use it across the globe. And this is something which is on the surface. This is the major distinction.
С точки зрения использования в...
From a Moscow perspective, any consumer picks what he likes. And there are different platforms. And any consumer having a smartphone, they have multiple applications, many apps installed. He can pick what car can come sooner, what is cheap for him.
Another very hot subject of regulation when it comes to these service providers has been the quality, the guaranteeing a fair treatment for your service providers, Uber service providers, also service providers of other platforms like Clean. So Roman, let me ask you, how are you making sure that your cleaners get a fair deal out of your platform in terms of like monetary retribution, social and social protections, and so on and so forth?
Ну, во-первых, у нас в системе
First of all, in our cleanup system, we also an IT platform in terms of cleanup. Each cleaner has a mobile app, and he accepts orders, initiates orders, check in, check out, certain function. We know how much time does it take for each specific order with a certain standardized set of options. We can see the geolocation. We can keep track of the cleaner. That cleaner is doing a certain cleanup work at a certain point in all the services that are platforms, IT platforms, where there is a person who exercises the job and the customer who accepts it. There is always a place for fraud, and you cannot do without. But our cleaners, they earn normal money, 50,000 rubles per month. This is the average, 50,000 rubles.
on average, because
Do they get any social insurance, any pension insurance from your platform?
we have insurance, yes, that covered all damage or sort of robbery or something like.
No, but if a cleaner gets injured while cleaning a house,
No,
happens?
no, we do not provide this because we are not, a company with its staff hired into this company. We have agency agreement with cleaner, so and that's why we do not provide any medical insurance and other insurance to them.
so we
So
should
that's our business model.
we should discount from those 50,000 costs for their
yes.
own individual health insurance or pension and so on. So
Maybe. Yes.
maybe we is there any representative of the public sector in the audience? But I turn the question on you guys. So do you think that the local authorities should play a role in guaranteeing also a fair treatment for the workers or the not employees but the service providers of your platforms? Alexander?
Could you formulate it once again?
Okay, so one of the major issues with services like Uber or Clean is that, for example, taxi drivers are saying, hey, our services are more expensive because we have to comply with a standard structure of health insurance, pension, social contribution, and so on and so forth. But in your case, you are dealing with drivers as if they were single individuals providing you a service on a freelance basis. And as we are hearing, in the case of Clean, there is no social insurance, no health insurance, so on and so forth. But so, do you think that authorities here have a point when they say, hey, this should be regulated?
Ну, тоже немножко есть определенное заблуждение относительно того, как
There is some kind of misleading conception as to how this works in Russia and in Europe. In Russia, the business model of most traditional taxi parks is that they just lease a car to a driver. There's a car with a license and it is given to a driver, it is leased to a driver, and it's not about social payments or something like that. So, of course, we can try to regulate everything, but it's hardly feasible.
If a Uber driver gets injured while driving, while providing a service, what happens?
каждый водитель обязательно должен иметь страховку ОСАГО.
Every driver should have an insurance policy.
They have to pay for their own insurance policy.
Абсолютно, да. Да. Он либо индивидуальный предприниматель, либо сотрудник.
Yes, absolutely. He is either an individual entrepreneur or a worker from a company. Actually, this is an important issue for all on-demand services, taxi, cleaning services, everywhere where there are freelancers. That's the first question to raise. Should they provide services, medical services, insurance services, and so on? But we need to understand several important points. The first one, People don't work at our company. That's some kind of additional job. We don't make them work 40 hours per week. That's their own choice. So it's quite logical that a cleaner should think about these favors himself or herself. That's not like being engaged full-time at a company. And the second point, for all businesses that are platforms, IT platforms like Uber, like us, like anything else, it is the minimization of those operational costs that enables us to provide services at a price at which a consumer is ready to buy them, and it's vital.
I guess that any other company would be willing to do that if they could, but if you are a taxi company, you can't, because you have to comply with certain regulations on medical and insurance and pension protection that in your case doesn't exist because, as you're saying, you are working on a freelance basis.
Не-не-не, тут немножко вот тоже это какой-то...
Well, that might be the case in Europe, but we don't have this in Russia. And once again, a taxi park company or a taxi fleet company just gets connected to a platform. And this is actually welcomed, this is not banned. And this is how their main headache is resolved. They know where to find a client, they don't have to spend on marketing. They just grab some percentage for every car, and that works.
I ask you, what is the average salary of a Uber driver in Moscow?
Salary is not the right word, I would say about income.
Average income of a Uber driver.
В каком городе, в какой стране?
In what city, in what country?
In Moscow.
Не раскрываем цифры по Москве.
The numbers for Moscow are not disclosed.
Can be wrongly interpreted, like, we can say to make any wrong impression, it's kind of guaranteed income or something like this.
Иначе им не дадут еще 1 миллиард.
Decent income they can earn on a flexible basis.
What do you mean with decent?
Decent is something that they come to work, they are agree to work for, and they take it as something they go stand up, to go to the car and take a drive.
Right. Any other questions from the audience? Please participate. I know this is the last one, but we are, again, small. We can make it intimate, but more engaging. Is the gentleman over there. If you want also to state your name and the company you represent.
Вопрос к Роману. Меня Алексей зовут.
My name is Alexei, company magistrate. A question to Roman, or actually I have two questions. Did I understand you clearly that your cleaners are also individual entrepreneurs? No, we have agency agreements with them. They are physical persons. And my second question, what are the guarantees that users have that there will be no leakage of information, there will be no stealing from the flats, no flat robberies, and in what segments of housing are those services used? Is this for elite housing or for economy housing, for cheaper housing? Thank you for your question. We have our own insurance fund, 5 million rubles, which covers all the negative issues that are potentially possible, and that naturally have already taken place with our customers. So here we fully support our customers. If a cleaner has broken something or stolen something, we compensate that to the client. That's our official position, and we do not save on that. As for the segments in which our service is popular, our services are popular in households with aggregate income of more than 80,000 rubles. Because with this amount, the cleaning services become cheaper than the time that you spend on cleaning. If we talk about special social groups in which our services are popular, our main clients were workers from advertising agencies, because we are also working closely with some advertising agencies. It's also young individual entrepreneurs, bankers, IT experts. 85% of users of our services are women. If we talk about our target audience, these are women from 27 to 42 years old. We are trying to expand that target audience. We are trying to prove that cleaning in your own home is a crime, and their income is a little bit above average. Now we are trying to go down to the average income segment. That's it.
Questions? Please, the gentleman over there. The mic is there.
Здрасте, меня зовут Владимир.
Hello, my name is Vladimir. I work with Roman in clean.ru. I have a question to Uber. Do you use a ref sharing model to attract users? If yes, how can you actually pave the way to the government, to a business which can generate new customers? And if there are models like this, how much do you pay for a new client? And do you then pay some, do you make some payments after that? And the second question is to you, Jacopo, if I am correct.
Don't you think that in Russia model, in Russian economy, all money that is going to like a future insurance, pension, etc., it's waste of money because ruble, Russian currency ruble, is poor. It's obviously a dollar is much more powerful, and the currency ruble in 20, 30 years when I'm going to be on pension will useless.
Well, let me just take this one.
For example, in the United States, there is no problem. I can take it all the income in my pocket and will decide where to keep it money or waste or spend them right now.
I guess this really depends on what is the percentage of the population for which the exchange rate, euro, ruble, dollar really matters. So how many people in Russia or anywhere else really travel abroad and spend their income abroad. So if this proportion is 50%, you may be right. If this proportion is 5%, 6%, 7%, most of the people wouldn't care whether or not the ruble is going up or down, apart from seeing a lot of headlines in the newspapers. But obviously this raises a good point, but it's a point that you have, this relates to the faith you have in your not only in the way the state finances are managed, but in the same state, because obviously you have to to trust.
Yeah, but it's also a point of choice. So I prefer to receive all the rubles and don't keep it to the future. I want to invest this money right now to my education, to my business, etc., etc. And I don't want this money. I don't want my business or my head business spend this money to future.
I guess this is also part of a social contract, because the money that you put in your pension fund
I think
is being used to pay the pensions of the elders now. So I guess, and this social contract works if it gets rolled over the years. But if you decide I don't want to contribute to the pension system anymore today, what happens to your your grandparents or anybody else's that believed that they would get a pension because they were contributing to the pension system?
For example, in China, there is no system like this.
Of course, this is very controversial. It's becoming a matter of debate everywhere. But it's also, I guess, it goes far beyond a discussion on a sharing economy. So let's go back to Alexander and to the question on a revenue sharing model.
По рефералке, да, у нас рефералка есть и для пользователей, и для водителей, то есть любой.
Yes, we have this model for users, for drivers. Every user can send a promo code, and there is a free payment for everyone who recommended it. That's just one trip, and a driver can also refer to a different to another driver, and after 50 trips there is a money bonus coming. No, we don't have this business, but we have PI business. Businesses can open the PIs and integrate with each other. What's the budget? The question cannot be heard. I cannot give you the number. It's not a very big number.
We have a very last one from the gentleman over here. Can you please introduce yourself?
Александр Павленко, я представляю.
I'm Alexander Pavlenko from real estate property management. That's management of housing, of residential housing and real estate as such. I have a question to probably all the participants. The sharing economy in Russia. In a few years, it might be about 6 trillion rubles per year in a few years, because this is becoming part of our legal framework, and that's the co-owners who have joint ownership in some houses. And so have you been able to see these types of services? If there is the market of operators or participants, those who work on this market, what role do they play in this sharing economy? And I also call it happiness economy. How do they fit into this picture? And what's your experience of working with them?
We give some rest to Roman Alexander.
Не уверен, что я смогу ответить, к сожалению.
I'm not sure I will be able to answer this. Well, then, welcome on this market, 6 trillion rubles per year. I can answer that, even though we are out of time. We had several tries. We went to the governing company and said, guys, for the residents of your multi-flat houses, there are services available. There can be a discount for all the residents of your house. And finally, we did not have any positive feedback from any asset governing company. We said that we would build some children's playgrounds. We will help you in many different ways. But there was no positive response from any single asset governing company. If you are the manager of an asset governing company, let's talk about this. I'm sure that our colleagues from Uber, from flower and pizza delivery companies will actually make you a great offer, because you have the database of residents, you have a building, a residential building, and you should monetize it.
I would like to finish, to wrap up with a very final question to each one of us. If you can answer me in two words. The sharing economy universe is very diverse, is very dynamic. We are seeing experiences, the rise of these incredibly successful platforms, and there are newcomers like Local or Clean. But what is, in your view, the next big thing for the sharing economy? Artem?
Не знаю, как ответить. Лучше.
I don't even know how to answer that. The next step is, since it was cars and flats, and then it will go on to small things. It's difficult to answer. If someone knows this, he will become a very rich person. I don't know what the next big thing will be, but it would be cool if the government understood what sharing economy is and would either adapt to sharing economy or would just not interfere with it.
A very perfect closing of this panel discussion. So please join me in a round of applause for our panelists. And thanks everybody for staying with us. And I hope you enjoyed the forum. And I'll see you tomorrow, I guess.
Спасибо.